boom, boom, and I was back. And it was all things that were totally opposite of what I believed. So much information. So when I came back, I had to digest all this information, and I had to throw out a lot of things that I believed in because they were all wrong or the opposite of what the real reality is.
So yes, Dennis, thank you so much for being here today. So Dennis is a near-death experiencer, but you also had a very profound spiritual transformative experience involving your mother shortly after she passed away. And that by itself, I think it's a pretty remarkable story. So why don't we start from that one and we'll take it from there?
Okay. Well, it all started. First thing I want to explain first, the relationship with my mother. And me and my mother were very, very close. Okay. She was like the light of my life. I had my father also, but he was a Marine and the armed forces, and he was also a police cop. So he came from a military family. So he was very, I would say, growing up, very dutiful, like everything is a duty. And it wasn't, I didn't really feel that, closeness with him so much. It was just that it was the duty. What do you want for Christmas? Okay, here it is. What do you want for your birthday? Okay, here it is. It was like that. It was not so caring, where my mother was the total opposite. She would tell me early in the morning, look outside, listen to the birds. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that. She was just full of joy, the sunshine. And when she got sick and she died, it's like somebody turned out the lights in my life. It's like they turned out the lights. And I was devastated. And when she died, I was living in Montreal, Canada at the time. And my life was just a mess. I didn't care to exist. I was not suicidal, but I didn't care what happened to me. So I would go, and there was a neighborhood bar next to my apartment. I would go there and have a drink and come back to my apartment, turn out the lights, sit on the side of my bed and cry myself to sleep. And I did that. That was my routine. And I did that for about a week and a half, something like that. Until this one night, I was doing my routine. I came in my room, turned out the lights, sat on the side of my bed, and I went to untie my sneakers. And when I looked down to untie my sneakers, I saw a light on the floor, and I said, "That's funny. I know I just turned out the lights. It can't be." And here's the crazy part. When I looked up in the room, and I looked up, it was if the sun that you see in the sky is in my room.
Wow.
I looked up and my mouth dropped open, and it was like, I'm looking at this sun in my room, and this wave of love just covers me. The only way to describe it is like if you're in the ocean and there's a wave in the ocean that's taller than your body and it covers your whole body. It was like that. This wave of love just covered me totally, my whole body. And if that wasn't enough, then there was these two stars, like stars inside the sun, coming out of the sun. And this sun I recognized later to be God. And after that, this two stars came out of the sun. One was a bigger star and one was a smaller star. And they floated out to me. And I recognized that the smallest star was my mother. Now, how I knew that, I could feel like her presence, her essence was in this star. I could feel it was her. It was like if I told two women the same height, same color hair, to turn around and you were seeing their backs and they didn't speak, but you could tell which one is your mother. You could feel. It was like that. So they floated out, and the first thing I said was, Mom, it's like that over there? Because the feeling was like I was on a beach in Hawaii, and I was a billionaire, and there was nothing but love around me.
Wow.
Times that feeling times about 100. That's how it felt. So I said, Mom, it's like that over there. And she floated out to me with this other light, which was much taller than her. And she began to speak to me. And how she spoke like I'm speaking to you, except the conversation from her was like being shot into my body. I could feel the conversation going into my body at the same time as she was talking. And so she said, I'm going to tell you a week in the future so you know that this is not an illusion or a fake. And I said, okay, Mom, I mean, I believe you anyway because you're here, and I'm just so happy to see you and that you're well. Because when she died, I came from a religious background, but not really a serious Christian background. It was just a holiday Christian background, And so when she died, all my beliefs went out the window, and I didn't know where she was. I just know she wasn't in that body. It was like a shell. I know she was gone. She was just not, I don't know where she was. So now she's here and talking with me. I was the happiest kid in the world. And she said, I'm going to tell you a week in the future, so you know this is not a fake or an illusion. She said, there's going to be a guy, you're going to have a job, and there's going to be a guy, a bouncer. And this bouncer is going to be a homosexual and a psychopath. Okay. She said that whatever you do not get in an argument with him or fight with him. And here's the crazy part. After that, she started talking like Captain Kirk of the Enterprise. She said, because there's two timelines. She spoke of two timelines. She said, one timeline, he's going to kill you if you get into an argument with him or a fight. In the other timeline, you're going to kill him, but you go to jail for the rest of your life. And she said to me, one of these timelines will happen if you get into an argument with him. And I said, listen, Mom, I'll do anything you say. I'm so happy you're right here in front of me. I'd do anything you say. And she said, so you're going to get a job next week, a music job. Now, me and my band, at that time, we hadn't worked in about 2 or 3 weeks. We're going through a really dry spell. I said, okay. And she said, just remember, whatever you do not get into an argument. I said, no, Mom, I'm going to do exactly what you told me. And she said, there's one more thing. She said, the girl that you've been seeing, she has 3 kids you don't know about. I've been seeing this girl for about maybe a year and a half.
Okay.
And I didn't know any of any kids, but she told me that there's 3 kids that she has, and she's been hiding them from you, and she's going to try to have a 4th kid with you. She's going to try to trap you. She may lie about being on the birth control, or she's going to try to trap you. So she told me, be careful about that. And then I asked her, Mom, who's this other light next to you? And then the light spoke to me, and it said, I'm an escort. And I'm escorting your mother to the earth plane, to the earth. And then it said, another exact words, it said, this is an interruption in your life. And I said, an interruption. Okay. So I got some questions for you, because, here I have God in my room, and my room is lit up like Star Wars. And I said, I want to know why I'm here. Who's going to be my wife? How many kids I'm going to have? What's the purpose of life and all this? And this, I would call this light like an angel. It said, I'm going to answer all your questions. It talked in a very calm voice. I'm going to answer all your questions, but you won't be allowed to remember. So it answered every question, but I can't remember. I was only allowed to remember what my mother told me.
Interesting.
Okay.
Wow.
So then my mom said, I love you and I'll always be around you. And she said that you're not going to know that I'm around you as much as you do tonight, but I'll always be around you. And then she said, I love you. And then they both started to float back into the sun. And then, like, if you put ice cubes in a glass and the ice starts to melt slowly into the glass, that's how it was. They start slowly melting. The room started slowly becoming darker and darker and darker till it was gone. And when they left, the moment that there was no more light, tears just burst out of my eyes, man. And I said to myself, I said, nobody's ever going to believe this. Nobody's ever going to believe this happened. Nobody. Then the next day, this is where I start to have proof. I get a call from my band and they said, hey, man, we got a gig. Okay. Because I didn't want to tell the band what had happened the night before because I didn't want them to think, oh, he's a great singer, a great musician, but, since his mom passed away, he's lost it, man.
Yeah.
So I didn't tell him nothing. I said, oh, okay, that's great. That's great. And then I hung up the phone and then I said to myself, oh, wow, it's beginning to happen exactly like she said. Exactly. She said I would get a job. And sure enough, I got a job now. So then a few hours after that, we did a sound check, what we call a sound check. And for the audience who doesn't know what sound check is, it's when the band tests the sound equipment before the job to make sure everything was working properly and the sound sounds good. So we did our sound check. We went to the club. It was a new club. We went to this club and there was this huge guy there. Now I'm about 6'2". I'm a huge guy too, but not as big as this guy. This guy was like Hulk Hogan or world wrestling type of guy. Like I could make one of me would make one of his arms. It's like he was, So, but he was at the door and he didn't bother me or nobody else. And we walked in, we did our sound check. Everything went fine. We left. And then we come back to the job at night for the gig. Now, we did our first set. It went really well. Everybody was cheering us. They liked the music, loved the music. Now we are on break. We have one more set to do. Now, on the break, I'm talking to the band, like it's 6 members. I'm on this side, the band is on this side, standing up on our break, and I'm talking. And then this bouncer walks behind me and grabs my butt, just grabs it like that, and walks straight to the corner. And I was talking, I went, hey. And I said, guys, did you see that? This guy just like grabbed my butt, man. But they couldn't see it. They just saw the guy pass because I was blocking their view. They could only see him pass. They couldn't see the grab. So I said, I got to tell this guy something. And I was angry. And as I was walking over to him angry, I said, oh, yeah, remember what mom said. Take it easy, man. Take it easy. Calm, calm, calm. Don't get into an argument. Just tell him that you're not like this. So I told him, I said, listen, man, please don't touch me again. I'm not like that. I don't want trouble with you, but I'm not like that. Okay, please don't touch me again. And he said, you had too many beers, man. I didn't touch you. I said, yeah, you did touch me, but please don't touch me because I'm not like that. And then I walked away because the longer I stayed in that conversation, the more it was pointing to an argument. Mm-hmm. So I just said that and then I left. And we did our second show. Went really well, but I wasn't going to hang around that club. I just didn't feel good in that club. So with this guy trying to touch me. So I did the second show, then I left and nothing happened. I walked past that guy and I walked out the door. Next day, I get a phone call from the band. They said, hey man, did you hear what happened? And I said, no, what happened? He said, remember that guy you told us that he grabbed you, touched your butt, this bouncer? I said, yeah. He said he got into an argument with the club owner and he crushed both of the rib cages of the club owner. And now he's in jail for manslaughter. The club owner died. And my mouth went open. I said, oh, my goodness. Wow. I said, that's crazy. Because the club owner was such a nice guy. This is crazy. So I hung up the phone and then I thought to myself, oh my God, it's happening exactly like my mother said. The only exception is it would have been me if I had gotten to the argument with the guy. So then I was thinking, I said, well, if she's right about that, then she must be right about my girlfriend. Oh. And then I said, I got to call her. So I called my girlfriend and she answered the phone, hello. And I said, tell me something. Just tell me the truth. Do you have 3 kids? And the phone went silent. Then she said, who told you? And I said, no, I got to answer this question again. I got to ask you again. It can't be true. Because I know you for a year and a half. Do you have 3 kids? And then she said, who told you? And I said, I'm going to tell you who told me. My dead mother told me. And I said, because I would have been cool with your 3 kids, but because you hid them for a whole year and a half, I don't know what else you could be hiding. And I don't want to have anything to do with you. So I hung up the phone. And that was the end of that. And that was the first major spiritual experience.
Pretty impressive, I would say. Thank you for sharing, Dennis.
Yes, you're welcome.
Well, so why don't you tell us a little bit about your near-death experience now?
Okay, so that's the first chapter. So the next thing that happened, well, after that, I tried to push that under the rug because I thought it was so amazing that nobody would believe me. And that's what I thought. And also, I thought people would think, oh, he's really like crazy or something like that because his mother died. So I didn't tell anybody. And I said, I'm going to try to live my life normal now. I knew the only thing that first experience relieved me that my mother was fine. She was better than fine. So that was, I stopped drinking and all that stuff. That moment, the night that happened. So that was okay. Now I'm moving on and I'm going to try to live life, a normal life. Now I started to follow this guy who was in this group called the Platters, but it wasn't the original Platters because the original Platters,
they're old. Yeah,
that's too old for me. But it was like a renewed group or something like that of the Platters and this lead singer, and the lead singer was really great. He had record deals in Germany, here, America, everywhere, Canada too. So I started to follow him like a mentor, like he was teaching me things for singing. And I was like singing background vocal for him and stuff like that. And then one night he introduced me to drugs. And I started to do drugs with him because I thought that was the way, which I'm not so proud of, by the way, to do drugs. But I started to do that thinking that this must be the road to success. Look at him, he's successful. And he's teaching me. And so I just started doing drugs with him. And then one weekend, he just dropped dead. And for me, that was like a wake-up call. And I said, if you continue like him, you're going to drop dead too, like him. And I said, so I stopped drugs cold turkey. And I replaced it with marijuana. I figured, I smoke a joint every now and then. So one day with my new girlfriend, we ran out of marijuana. So I ran out, so I called one of my musician friends and I said, hey, you got any marijuana? And sure enough, they had marijuana. And he said, well, how about if I bake it in a cake for you and bring it over? I said, that would be cool because I never had it in a cake before. I only smoked it. So he made it in a cake and he must have poured the whole kitchen sink in that thing. He must have put so much marijuana. It was a crazy amount. But I didn't know that. And he didn't tell me that. So he brought the cake over, left the cake with me and my girlfriend, and he left my apartment. So I cut a piece for her and a piece for me. So each of us had a piece and we ate it and waited 10 minutes and nothing happened. And we said, that's strange. You feel anything? She said, no. I said, I don't feel anything either. I think we have to eat more cake. I cut half of the cake to her and half of the cake to me. And because we wanted to get high. So we thought that he might have probably put a little bit in it. That's why we don't feel it. So that's why we have to eat more. So she ate the other one half and I ate the other half. Another 10 minutes went by. We still didn't feel anything. And then after another 10 minutes, we started to feel something. But it wasn't like getting high. It was like our bodies began to shut down. Like I would be talking to her and then I would forget to breathe, to actually breathe. And then it was becoming hard for me to move, like just to move. And she said, you better call 911 while we still can, because it feels like we're shutting down somehow. We're not being able to move and you're forgetting to breathe. It's not it doesn't look good. So we called 911 and they said, well, how can we help you? And then it was very embarrassing because I had to explain that we think we took too much marijuana and a cake and we feel like we're beginning to die. Can you come save us? Can you come help us? So she said, okay, we'll send someone over right away. And what I didn't know, what I found out later was when you call 911 and if it has to do with any narcotic.
You have to call the police as well. No?
Yeah, they called the police also. So the police and the ambulance came. First, the police came, but they had nothing to charge us with because we ate all the cake. So there was no evidence. So they left. And then the ambulance came. And I was really glad at that time because I could barely move. And I was pushing my heart to beat just for long enough that they can get to me. I can get to the hospital. So they arrived and this was at 4:00 in the morning. And we lived on the 3rd floor. So and it was a staircase past the windows of the other apartments. So it's 4:00 in the morning. Lights, sirens are flashlights are flashing. They're carrying each in a separate stretcher down these stairwell in front of their window. And they got the curtains open and they're looking like, what happened to them? And it looked like something out of like David Bowie, Mick Jagger overdosed. It just looked wild, man. So they bring us into the ambulance and we're going straight to the hospital. And when I arrive at the hospital, at the reception, and they're wheeling me past the reception, another strange thing happened. I see my dead mother. And she's at reception looking through papers, looking through where I'm at, as if almost like she knew the future and she was looking for what room I would be in. And I could see her like I see you. Now, what I didn't realize was that the moment they had rolled me past her in the hospital, that the only reason I could see her was I was that close to death. I didn't realize that at that time. So they rolled me into the hospital room and they rolled my girlfriend into another room. And they gave me this black drink to drink. Later, I found out it's called charcoal. And they told me to drink it and that it would clean all the drugs or whatever that may be in my body, any kind of marijuana or whatever. So they left the room. So I drank this drink and this black, totally tar from the street drink. I drank it and I thought, oh, I'm going to live. I'm going to live. I'm going to live. So I sat back on my hospital bed and I drank it. And as I'm relaxing in my bed to finish the drink, I began all of a sudden to hear my heart in my my ear. It started to beat. I could feel it like somebody took out my heart out of my chest and put it in my ear, and I could hear my heart going boom, 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 boom. And when it did that, I jumped out of my body. It's like I jumped out of this chair, just jumped out of my body. And the moment I was out, I said, I'm out, because I could see my body in the bed and I'm standing next to my body. And then I'm looking at my hand. I start to look at my hand because I see that my hand has this gray, light bluish tint around it. I'm out of my body and I'm looking at my hand. And then I hear this drop of water. There's a sink in my hospital room. And this drop of water, doot, doot. And for some odd reason, I don't know why, but my curiosity was like at 1,000. I was just curious. And a drop of water to a soul was like the most precious thing that could be ever imaginable. That's what I felt like. I said, oh, a drop of water. And then the minute I thought about the water, my vision zoomed up to the sink in the bathroom and back to where I was standing next to my bed. Then I wanted to freeze the water because the water was dripping fast. I wanted to see it. And it was like I was remembering things. Like if I give you a bike and 20 years from now, you're still going to know how to ride a bike. Even if you haven't ridden a bike in 20 years, you're still going to know how to ride the bike. It was like that. So I just waved my hand across the air like that. And I froze time. And the water was frozen in midair. But that, to a soul, that was nothing. That was like, yeah, okay. And then I said, I'd like to see that water from every angle. And then I opened my hand like that. 5 of me appeared at the sink. 1 on the left, 1 on the right, 1 underneath the water, 1 watching them, and me watching all of them. And I'm just watching this. And when I would close my hand, they all would come back to me, absorb right back into me, like that. And I kept doing that. I opened my hand, they would peer at the sink. Close my hand, they'd come back to me. And I kept doing that really, really, really fast. And then I said, I wonder if I open my hand with a little shake, will all 5 of them do a little shake? And I opened my hand and I did a little shake, and they all appeared and they did this little shake, and I burst out laughing. I burst out laughing. And the laugh sounded like if I was laughing in the Grand Canyon in America. Ha, 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 ha. Now, after the laugh, I felt like somebody was watching me. Then I heard this voice. And this voice said, if you don't go back now, you might have to stay. It wasn't an order. It was very gentle. I didn't even question who it was because I knew who it was, that it was God. And it wasn't an order. It was just a choice. And I said, oh, yeah, that's right. My heart can't stay stopped forever, for much longer. And here's another thing. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention. While I was out of my body, the only thing I can explain it was there was something happening. I don't know if you ever had Alka-Seltzer. You know, Alka-Seltzer for headaches. It's like a pill you put into water if you have a headache, and it absorbs into the water.
Right.
Okay. Well, this was like, it was like information was expanding in my brain. I was getting more and more information about everything. And all the time that I was out of my body, it was expanding, expanding, expanding. So getting back to coming back into the body. So I looked at my body, and here's another important point. I never wanted to look at my dead face because I was afraid that it was going to be all like this or some contorted. So I only looked at my leg in the bed, never at my face, because I didn't want to be scared about that. So then I pointed myself in the direction of the body, and I willed my soul to go into that body. And when I did, it's like I jumped right into the body, and my heart, it did like a double beat, boom, 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 and I was back. But the only difference is that all this information I was allowed to remember this time. And it was all things that were totally opposite of what I believed. It covered so many things, religion, it covered the Bible, Christ, it covered the world, it covered what we live in now, it covered so many things. Earth, it covered why do we come here, it covered souls, it covered heaven, hell, it covered Christ, it covered also suicide, it covered so much information. So when I came back, I had to digest all this information, and I had to throw out a lot of things that I had believed in because they were all wrong or the opposite of what the real reality is. And so I came back in my body, I was fine, and I had all this information. Then also I discovered after that I had gifts, like things that I could do, and I didn't realize that. I found out by accident. Because after that experience, I said, this is even more incredible than the last one. I said, because of the or what we call the information or downloads, you might want to call them. So I said, I'm going to try to live a normal life again, because I didn't know what my colleagues or my friends would think about me if I was to tell them all this. I mean, my mother was one thing, but this was like, it was like telling somebody, most of the stuff you believe in is totally opposite. It's you can understand. Absolutely. So I didn't say anything to nobody for a while. I went back to doing music, and my band, we did a gig in Montreal, Canada, in Canada, but in Mont Roland, it's called. And there was a snowstorm. So nobody was it was a day gig, by the way. And nobody was in this club that was open during the day. So it was only 2 waitresses and the band because of the snowstorm. So I called one of the waitresses over, and I was going to do like a joke. It was supposed to be a joke. I said, give me your left hand. I'm going to tell you your future. It was supposed to be a joke. I told her, I said, your boyfriend is paraplegic. I said, he blames you for his handicap, even though it's not your fault. I said, in 3 months from now, you're going to meet a guy and you're going to fall in love, and you're going to marry him, and you're going to leave this guy, this paraplegic guy. And then I just threw her hand away and finished my beer. And I didn't know, I noticed that she didn't say a word while I was speaking, like nothing. So a year later, we played that same club, and the same waitress was working there, and she ran up to me and she said, did you know that everything you told me was true? I said, no way. I said, your boyfriend was paraplegic? She said, yes. I said, he blamed you for his handicap, even though it wasn't your fault? She said, yes. I said, you met a guy 3 months after and you fell in love? She said, yes. And I said, you got married to this guy? And then she didn't even answer me. She just held up her finger and showed me the wedding ring. Wow. And then the hairs, man, on my arm went up my neck. Yeah, and my band said, hey, man, what's going on with you? Are you turning into Nostradamus? And I said, I don't know what's happening. And I was asking myself, am I turning into an alien since I died? What's going on? So that was the first sign that I had some kind of gift to tell about things. And then, and which had its ups and a little bit its downs too. Because there was another incident that happened after that, where there was the band, we would, after we do a show, we would go to these after hour clubs. These are clubs that stay open after the normal clubs close. And we would go there, and sometimes the audience would go there to talk about the show, how it was, and how they enjoyed it, and just like that, to hang out. Because after you do a show, music show, it's hard to just go home and go straight to bed.
Well, that adrenaline,
because the energy is up. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
So we would go to the after hours. So there was a bouncer there too, but this guy was a friend of ours and cool people. And I had this premonition on a Thursday that he shouldn't go out on the weekend. Now, and as you know, most bouncers are quite big, huge guys that most guys are not going to want to pick a fight with. Let's put it that way. And this guy was no exception. So I had a premonition that he should not go out this weekend. It was like a cloud that hung over my head for all day and night. So, but I said, if I tell him that, he's going to think I'm crazy, man. Who's going to mess with this guy? You got to be crazy to even want to mess with this guy. I said, so I was in a fight with myself to tell him or not. So I saw him on that Friday and I didn't tell him. I decided, nah, I'm not going to tell him. He's going to think I'm crazy. If I tell him to stay in your apartment, something might happen to you. He's going to think I'm crazy. So I didn't tell him. So Friday, we went to the after hours after the show. Everything was cool. He was cool. Then Sunday comes along. Sunday, we do a show. And then after, we go to the after hours. But the bouncer is not there this time. This time, there's another bouncer there standing at the door with tears rolling down his face. And I said, hey, man, what's wrong? He said, you didn't hear? I said, hear what? He said, the other bouncer, he's dead. I said, dead? I said, how did that happen? He said, on Saturday, he met this girl. And after his shift, around close at 7 or 8, he took her to a hotel. She waited till he fell asleep, and she took out a butcher knife and slashed his throat. Oh. And he tried to stop her, but he had lost too much blood, and he went unconscious, and then he died. And I felt so bad, man. I felt guilty and bad. And then I went to his funeral, and then I asked myself, I said, if I had told him, I asked my soul, what if I told him, would that have made a difference? And the answer I got was that he wouldn't have listened anyway. So, but I promised myself that if I get a premonition about anything or anybody, whether it's the president of the United States, I'm going to tell them. If they think I'm crazy or not, I don't care. So after that, I started to do readings for people, little ones, to help them with this, with work, or with relationship, with health. And that started to go very well. And I discovered that I had gifts and things. So I decided that I'm going to help people with that, But I was never, like I said, I was never religious. I couldn't even imagine myself before all this stuff happened that I would be the one talking about spiritual things, So, but now here I am. And I wanted to also share with people in the sessions the downloads that I got, because there's a lot of confusion, and this might make some of your religious guests a little bit upset, but I only say what it is, what I was given. First thing, the real religion is love. Second thing, God never judges you. God loves you unconditional. Third thing, this life we're leading is a game. We take it too serious. That's another thing I felt when I first came out of my body, was that I took that life too serious. It's a game. And why was this game created? Who created this game? Other souls.
Yeah.
Other souls created this game for other souls to be able to come here to experience what they're not and to experience, period. It's not a school. It's not a thing of evolution. But you do take this experience here on the other side. But it doesn't make you more evoluted or better than a soul that hasn't had that experience. It just makes you different. It's like if I say the number 7 better than the number 1? It's different. It's just different. So it's like that. So we came here to experience that all, because on the other side, you can't experience these low density vibrations. You can't. You know, you can't experience no love. You can't experience powerless. On the other side, you're like Superman, Superwoman. You're like, you can have multiple lifetimes at the same time. You can divide yourself if you want to. You can create New York City on the other side if you think about it. You can create whole galaxies. You can create another body on the other side and occupy it. You can create another soulmate on the other side to be with you.
So, if you don't mind me asking, why do we decide to come on Earth and go through, the suffering, the hardships, or the duality?
Okay, here's the thing. There's a song by Annie Lennox that's called Sweet Dreams.
Classic.
Now, and in the lyrics, she's saying some of them want to use you, but some of them want to be used by you. Some of them want to abuse you, but some of them want to be abused by you. And what she's saying is that everybody has different things they want to experience. When you're on the other side, you feel so powerful that when you put on your life plan what you want to do, here's another download. 50% of all you experience in your life, you've already planned. Where you're going to be born, who your parents are going to be, who your kid's going to be, who your wife is going to be, who your girlfriend's going to be, who the girl that's going to break your heart's going to be, who your enemy's going to be, who your best friend's going to be, who your dog, who your cat's going to be. That's all planned. Who your uncle's going to be, who your mother and father, all this is all planned. So it's about 50%. And the other 50% is free will. Now, you always have free will here or on the other side. So if you don't, let's say I changed my mind about the plan I made before I came here. You can do that. You can say, I don't want my parents no more, so they're not my parents. I abandoned my kids because I don't want that plan anymore. I abandoned my wife. I don't want to be with her anymore. I don't even want dogs or cats anymore. I abandoned that plan. You have free will to do so. Okay, so that's 50%. So some people on their life plan put so many things because you're not going to experience suffering and agony on the other side. You're not. So, but you can experience it here. Okay. And so sometimes we have guides and angels around us all the time. And sometimes they put too much on their plan. Even the angels tell them, hey, maybe that's a little bit too much. But you feel like Superman on the other side. So, don't worry, I can handle it. I'm good. I'm strong. I can create whole universes. Just a thought. No, that's no problem. I can handle it. And then when you get here, you might find you can't handle it. And then some people suicide because they can't handle it, what they put on their life plan. Okay. And that's okay too. Like I said, God loves you unconditionally, no judgment of any kind. Now, some people choose, let's say a baby who comes here for 6 months and then dies. Crib death.
Yeah.
That's a baby that came in here and said, I can't do this. This body is too small. I can't be in this small thing. I thought I could do it, but I changed my mind. And they leave. And that's it. So, and some people come here, they want to experience. It's not for me to tell you, hey, If you don't experience exactly like I experience, something's wrong with you. It's not for me to judge that. I can't judge another soul for what another soul may feel. And here's the other thing. Every soul is unique. Every soul is unique. It's not like a clone of just souls and they're all the same. No way. Every soul is so, so, so unique.
So I'm obviously I'm not an experiencer. I
Mm-hmm.
love the science behind it, and if you see some of my interviews, I'm a big proponent of the idea that since the 70s, we started really big, something really big, because we with the invention of the defibrillator and CPR, for the first time in history, we started to get a lot of people come back from the dead, and as
Mm-hmm.
you know yourself, about 15-20%
Mm-hmm.
coming back with a
Right.
near-death experience. So these days, it seems like we have enough data points to turn all of this into science finally. Everything that just perhaps only religions have been trying to
Mm-hmm.
transmit for the last millennia. Finally, where the science can go there. So actually, look, guys, let's start to look at the
Mm-hmm.
similarities. Let's start to study all these NDEers that are talking about the same things. So it
Mm-hmm.
feels to me that, and I'd love to know if you share this vision, is that we are entering a new era, that we're moving from the material society to a more spiritual one, and there's many ways to try and maybe come to terms with the notion of an afterlife. Obviously, studying NDEs, I think, gives us so many huge insights. But there's other ways, as children remembering their past lives. There's deathbed
Mm-hmm.
visions. So there's a lot of approaches. So the question being, I'd love to know if you feel that we are entering a new era, and how is that going to look like? How society is going to, how humanity, where is this leading
Well, first
towards?
I have to explain to you
Please.
timelines again. Okay. We go back to the science of timelines. And the first thing is that the Earth is going to choose a timeline. It's going to split. So it's going to go like into two timelines. One Earth will be on 3D, one Earth will be on 5D. And how people get on either one is going to be their vibration, which means it's only two vibrations, high or low. Low vibrations is hate, fear, judgment, confusion, depression, stress, anger. All these are low vibrations. High vibrations, happiness, love, gratitude, forgiveness, nature, animals, babies, animals, creating arts, music, joy, smiling, laughing. All this is high vibrations. Now, the earth, by the way, is a soul that's helping in this game, to have this game. Now, the earth decided after billions and billions of years of playing that it doesn't want to do 3D anymore. Okay. So it decided to go to 5D. Now, for example, if you move to a new apartment and you have to move everything yourself, it's going to take you a pretty long time to move to the new apartment if you have to do everything yourself.
Yeah.
But if you call your friends, it's going to go a lot faster, right? And it's the same for the Earth. The Earth made a call for what we call star seeds to be born into the Earth to help her raise the vibration. Now, star seeds are people who came here for a specific reason to help the Earth raise in vibration. Some of them know their plan, some of them don't, because this game called Earth is the only game where you have amnesia. You don't know that you're a god. You don't know that you're part of God. You don't even know. When you come into this game, in order to experience all those things of lack of love and powerless, you have to not know that you're a god that can create everything in a thought. So you lose you have amnesia. But anyway, the Earth decided not to play the game anymore. So she called out for the star seeds. Star seeds were born into the Earth, and now the Earth is rising in vibration. And the Earth is asking everyone on this Earth what vibration you want to be on, because there's going to come a time when she's going to reach 5D vibration, and she's going to split into two timelines. And One, if you're on low vibration all the time, most likely you're going to go to the 3D Earth timeline. And if you're on high vibrations, most of the time you're going to go to the 5D. Now, what's the difference between the 3D and 5D? Well, the 3D is like it's always been: war, killing, murder, unfairness, despair, death, a bunch of stuff. 5D will be love and peace only, no killing of animals, plants, or people. You'll have 20% of your soul power in the physical body, which is a lot, because just a fingernail, a small piece of your fingernail of your soul, you're having this life. So imagine 20% of the soul power in the physical body, consciously. You'll be able to communicate with all animals, plants, rocks, water, because everything is another thing. My downloads, everything is alive. Everything is alive, just on a different frequency, and that's why I laugh with the vegetarians and the meat eaters and all this stuff like that. Who's right, who's wrong? Well, actually, they both are wrong in the same sense. In my downloads, plants are screaming when you kill them, when you pull them out of the ground. They're screaming, but you can't hear it on our frequency. We only see a certain 0.2 spectrum of the light of color. We don't even see all the colors. We only see all the things that are existing around us. We don't even see it. So our hearing is the same. We only hear on a certain frequency. We don't hear everything. Dogs do, cats do, animals do. They hear it on a high frequency, but we don't. And it's the same. So, if you kill a cow, yeah. If you kill a plant, yeah, same thing. The plant is screaming, but you can't hear it so much on the plant. So we think, oh, that's better. Okay. But the first thing is you want to bless your food, whether it's meat or whether it's vegetables or whatever. You want to bless your food. Now, there was an experiment in Japan where a guy said to one bowl of rice, he said, every day for a month, I hate you. I despise you. You're disgusting. He said that every day for a month. And another bowl of rice every day for a month, he said, I love you. I adore you. You are so healthy for me. At the end of the month, the bowl he said, I hate you, turned black of rice, turned black and unedible. The bowl he said, I love you, stayed white, and you still could eat it. It was fresh.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because your words have power, and also your thoughts. That's another download. I had many downloads, and this is what I'm sharing right now. This is not what I believe or not what I think should be. This is just downloads. I had to erase 80% of what I believed out the window. Okay? So what you think and what you say actually is creating your reality. Think of vibrations like a radio station. You can't get rock music on a classical station. You can only get classical. Let's say classical is the high vibration. Let's say rock is the low vibration. Okay? You're not going to get the rock on the classical station. Okay? That's how vibrations work. And also, what you speak and what you say are so powerful. It's like if I put a real gun in the hands of a 3-year-old, and the 3-year-old thinks it's just a play gun and it goes around shooting everybody and wonders why they're falling down with blood and in pain. It's the same for us. If we're talking bad things and having what I call low vibration conversations, we're having bad thoughts about ourselves, we're telling ourselves bad stories, I can't do this, nothing ever happens, good for me, blah, blah, blah. And then we wonder, well, why is my life so bad? This is why. And so this is why I try to tell my clients and share with my clients this downloads, this information that's going to help them. Because it's not about karma. That's another thing in my downloads. Karma does not exist. What does exist is frequency. For example, if somebody's killing somebody, let's say, somebody's a hitman for the mafia, let's say, and he's going around killing people. Okay, he is on the killing frequency. It's not because of karma. It's because He's on the killing frequency. He can kill, but also he can be killed because he's on that frequency. It's not because God going to punish you or it's karma that you're going to get. It's because of frequency. Okay. So that's one of my downloads I got. And so it's not about, here's the other thing. It's not about being perfect. The example is if a 3-year-old little boy runs around the corner and he runs down the street and he falls, he's going to scream. You're going to feel that low vibration emotion. But a minute later, that same 3-year-old is going to be laughing. Why? Because he felt that low vibration emotion, but then he let it go. We're adults. They hold on to it for days, weeks, years even.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dennis. I'd be curious to know, what's the biggest lesson that you learned from your NDE?
Oh, that's a good question. And hard to pin down because there's a lot I learned from that. But for my NDE, the most I learned was that not to take this life so seriously. Love is the key to this game. And why we're here is just to experience. So experience. And I can't stop judging others. And also understand how this game works. It's all about the vibration. It's not about logic anymore. Because logic if you do logic now, you're going to lead to the road called insanity. Why? Because the whole earth is on a different vibration. It's on a higher vibration. So logic, you may do, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And logically, this should work. It may not, because the whole vibration of the planet has changed. So nothing is working quite like it normally used to work. So everybody can't do their job like they normally used to do, because everything is not working like it used to work, because there's on a whole new vibration. So you want to go not so much on logic, but you want to go on vibration. What vibration am I on? What is this job vibration? What is this? What is that? What vibration is it? That's where you want to be thinking. And it's not about being perfect. It's just about knowing what to do if you find yourself on low vibration. I told people, my clients, that you should write a list of 10 things on a piece of paper. I have the same list. And the first thing would be nature. If you live near a lake, water, a tree, anything nature, you sit in the nature, you sit under a tree, and your vibration will rise automatically. You don't have to do anything. And the other 9 things could be personal to you. Favorite ice cream, funny movie, friend that makes you laugh, girlfriend, creating, music, a good book, photo, cartoons. My number 2 is Bugs Bunny. I laugh my head off at Bugs Bunny. I could wake up in the morning and I could feel fear about governments, wars, and all this stuff. Your emotion is your thermometer. This is my downloads. Your emotion is your thermometer. So you can't say, I don't know what vibration I'm on. How do you feel? If you feel great, then you know you're on high vibrations. If you don't feel so good, then you know you're on low vibrations. And you look on your list and you do 1 of the 10 things. Me, it's Bugs Bunny. Like I said, I watched that for 15 minutes. I'm laughing, back on high vibrations. And the thing is, it's not about being perfect. It's just about knowing what to do when you find yourself on low vibrations. The earth is changing. So there's a lot of changes, a lot of confusion happening. So it's quite easy to slip and go into low vibrations from frustration, from this is not working or that's not working. But know what to do when you're on those low vibrations. Don't stay too long, because the law of attraction is real. It works on the other side much faster, but it still works on this side with a delay, a slight delay.
Well, that's a great suggestion. A couple more questions for you.
Yes, sure.
So first of all, be curious to know, what do you think people who may have not had a near-death experience can do to start to come to terms with the notion of an afterlife?
First thing you have to, here's one of my downloads. You, every night, Dani, you go to the other side. You know why? Because your soul doesn't need to sleep, only your body. Your soul leaves your body every night, but you're just not conscious of it, that's all.
So how can you train it to be?
Well, you can, actually. There's a few ways to train it. But there's also a guy that right now is training people to leave their body.
That is right.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I would suggest if people want to do that, they should go and take a course with him. All the things he's saying is 99% on with my downloads. He was the only one of the only few, I would say only few, that registered exactly what my downloads said.
Wow.
You know, because there was things, you know, in my downloads, like, for example, heaven and hell. You get some people that died and they went to hell. And the only reason why they went to hell is because, first thing, we are gods. So whatever we believe, we create on the other side. Now, when the person dies and goes to hell, two things happen. Either they realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm creating this, and they get out, or they say, God, help me, I'm in hell. And God comes and says, okay, I take you out of your own creation, and takes them out. And they think, oh, God spared me. Oh. No, God just took you out of your own creation. That's it. Because if God created hell, no one would get out. But God, I repeat, is only love. Only. And he allows us free will. So if you want to create hell, go ahead. God's not going to stop you. But if you ask God for help, he's going to take you right out because God loves you. And so he takes them out. So because we are that powerful. So what you believe in this life, when you go to the other side, that's going to be some of the first things that you're going to experience is what you believed in this life. Because you're a God. And you're a part of God.
Yes,
and it's the same thing with heaven. People think, I'm going to go to heaven. And they create that, Virgin Mary is going to be there. Jesus is going to be there. And they die and they actually go to this heaven that they have created. And they find out, hey, there's nothing happening here. There's nothing going on. A few angels and that's it. Nothing's happening. And they start to figure out, hey, wait a minute. This is because I created this. Why? Because on the other side, every place is heaven because it's all from God. So there's different layers of dimensions outside the earth, but it's no like, okay, now you die, now you go to this particular heaven. That's all creation man-made. That's all man-made.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I have one last question for you.
Yes, of course.
What's the meaning of life?
Meaning of life is to experience. And the meaning of life is to share love and to enjoy this experience. To share who you really are and who we all really are is love. If I take off the suit of Napoleon, all and the body, what's left? His soul. What is his soul made out of? Love. Because it was a game. That's all. It's a game he came to experience. Maybe he wanted to experience power in the physical body. He wanted to experience, some wanted to experience no power. Some wanted to experience this. Some wanted to experience to be a king. Some wanted to experience to be a bum because they have everything on the other side. So everybody has different ones. And it's not for me to say, hey, you should experience only what I wanted to experience. No. Because then you're judging because you say, well, then it goes back to that Annie Lennox song, someone to abuse them, someone want to be abused, so, we can't judge the rainbow. What makes the rainbow beautiful is what? The different colors.
To be honest, with that, there's not much else that needs to be added. I think you.
Right, exactly.
Dennis, thank you so much.
Hey, Dani, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me, man. And I hope you got all your questions in.
Absolutely, and a lot more.
Oh, great,
thank you so much. And well, keep up the good work.
Thank you
so much, Dennis.
Thank you, Dani.
The best. Ciao, ciao.
You too. Ciao, ciao.
Oh, hi there. Well, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the IANDS community, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and maybe share with the ones you love. If you're looking for another video to watch, I think this could be a very good one. New episodes out every Friday. And until then, enjoy the stream we all call live and live the love you wish to see in the world. Bye for now.